Hi, I'm Craig Shelley. One of the most exciting parts of our work here at Orr Group is the great leaders we get to interact with, work with, and learn from along the way. Our Partner Perspective series is designed for us to bring these leaders to you. I'm excited today to be joined by Mary Stata, the Chief Development Officer at Mercy Corps, a global organization working on the front lines of today's biggest crisis. Thank you so much for being here, Mary.
Thanks for having me, Craig. Good to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So we'll jump right into it. I mean, you've had a super interesting career. You've spanned policy, philanthropy, fundraising. You've witnessed significant changes across the sector over that period of time, I would imagine. Could you share maybe some of the key trends and opportunities you've observed and sort of how these insights have shaped your work?
Yeah, you're right. There has been a lot that's changed over the years. And my career has really been rooted in the international development sector primarily. And so I'll definitely speak more from that perspective. I think one of the key changes that we've really seen has been a drive towards what we call localization. As a sector, the roots of the international development and humanitarian sector are really, to be frank, quite colonial in nature. And I think there's been a really, really important conversation, a long overdue conversation unfolding over the past couple of years in particular, that's really re-examining how our sector is structured, who has power, and who is also leading the work. And for Mercy Corps, I think this has like really important implications and also a really big opportunity for us to be really embracing partnerships in a truly equitable and transformative way with partners across the 40 plus countries that we work. It's also raising really important questions about how we are nurturing leaders. And again, who is getting to lead this work and who is empowered to do so. This also extends to important conversations that we need to be having with our donors, as many of the requirements that we need to adhere to are really geared towards the global north. And in order to really be expanding who is speaking about the work, who is leading it, we really need donors to be also expanding their horizons and some of their expectations of what fundraising looks like and what donor engagement looks like. So I think that's been a really important shift and one that's going to, I think, really continue to dominate the conversation in the coming years, and one that, again, I really welcome. Another really important change is, I think, how you are seeing the work portrayed of international development and humanitarian work. If you look at Mercy Corps' website, our social channels, we have really prioritized how we are portraying the program participants and the contexts where we work. A very traditional approach in the past has been to really be portraying these circumstances as quite desperate. And the people affected by crises, whether they be humanitarian or whether they be natural disasters or man-made conflicts, has been very common to see people portrayed in a really desperate way, and one that is not honestly very dignified. And that's something that Mercy Corps has really taken a strong position in how we are communicating our work to donors, and by doing so in a way that is portraying these individuals with like their full agency and fully dignified. We've really prioritized getting consent from anyone who we are portraying in our communications, being very thoughtful about how children are portrayed and all the rest. And so I think that, this again is an area where I think not every organization is where we are at in their journey, but one where I think we've really been leading the way in an exciting way. The last point that comes to mind is I think there's been a really exciting conversation unfolding in the sector around trust-based philanthropy, definitely a buzzword, and the conversation around, needing to be increasing unrestricted funds to be, really be seeing the relationship between donors and grantees being based in trust. Very exciting, very welcome conversation. And I think one that there is a long ways to go to really seeing that really broadly applied. And so I think that that's another area for us to continue to be working towards as a full sector in the years to come.
Definitely. And I think, this whole sense of how we portray and talk about work is just so dramatically different from when I would have started my career. So yeah, I think you all are right, or I think handling it the right way. So speaking of I've said this to you before, I'll say it again, like you have a great team, right? The team of fundraisers that you have around you are all super sharp, super committed, doing great work, but they're all over the globe and there's a lot of them. I'm curious, and they're working with donors from all over the world, right? Like you're not just
Mhm.
raising money in North America. Um, what sort of unique challenges is leading a team like that, kind of have you experienced? And then I would also say like, and what are you most proud of working with that team?
Yeah, it's absolutely a challenge. Leading a team that is working in such different contexts. How philanthropy looks in the UK is super different from in the US, for instance, and then even more so when you're talking about other markets, like just globally speaking. I think that also presents a really great opportunity from my vantage point to really be looking at each market in terms of how to really be maximizing the opportunity that they provide to Mercy Corps. And then how does all of that value globally add up into a global strategy? And so that definitely is an ongoing, that's always on my mind for how we are, prioritizing our resources, our staffing, how we are engaging with donors, who our prospects are. And so that's just an ongoing dynamic that I manage in my role. We also are a multi-mandate organization. Mercy Corps doesn't just do water. We don't just do food security. We really span the spectrum from immediate emergency response to longer term economic development, and that's our strength. And so that also does mean that it's easy for us to get pulled in a lot of directions with my team. Again, working in 40 plus countries across a range of issues, the need to focus is constant and persistent. And so that's where it's been a real priority for me since I've taken on this role to be providing some more direction for those priorities. And I am still firmly believe that the more we're prioritizing, the more money we're going to raise. And that strategy has definitely borne fruit over the past couple of years. I'm really proud that we've grown our revenue significantly since I took on this role. We've raised, our revenue has grown by nearly 40% in the past 3 years. And also, I mean, and you indicated this in your opening, we just have a phenomenal culture on my team. And it's definitely not one that I can take full responsibility for. I really just love that we have a very positive and collaborative culture on the team. We've really invested a lot in having fundraisers who fundraise across different types of donors be partnering together. So having the major gifts team be in regular conversation with the corporate team and regular conversation with the foundation team. Those conversations are some of the most dynamic and energizing to me. And it's one that I just continue to hear like really strong support from the team that they also are finding immense value in. So those are some of the key things that jump to my mind.
Yeah, no, and I agree. The culture is great and it's consistent, right? Like whether I'm with your team in Edinburgh or Portland or the staff that's based in New York, like there's a like consistent sort of approach and mindset and just sort of professionalism and dedication. That's all consistent, which is really cool. Um, so I mean, we've been able to work with you all, I guess, going on almost a year now. Really took on this challenge of with you of like, can we sort of design a campaign that'll attract new donors? Accelerate sort of people's understanding of how much of our work is connected to climate and building resilience against the changes that we're all living through. Um, just curious, like how has that experience been with Orr Group? Where has it impacted your work positively? Yeah, just would love to hear a little bit about your experience with us.
Yeah, well, I mean, working on this campaign has also absolutely been a highlight of my role so far, and I know will continue to be one in the years to come. And the support and partnerships that we've gotten from you, Craig, and your team has just been absolutely invaluable. There is no way that we would be where we are today if we had not gotten support from the work group nearly a year ago at this stage. And I think that support has been invaluable for a number of reasons. One is that you all have been able to help us really develop a data-driven target, and not just having a fundraising goal that's kind of like half baked or with like a lot of like wishful thinking put in there. And for me to be able to really be going to my leadership, to my board, to be presenting this campaign, and to really being able to back it up with data has been super, super critical, as well as to be getting your counsel as you are connecting with so many others across the nonprofit space so that we are confident that what we are doing is really it's realistic, and also that we're being responsive to the ongoing trends. I think another really important piece, and you and I were just talking about this recently, is the accountability that I think having external support provides for us, especially when you're starting a major new initiative and when we're essentially asking teams to be either reprioritizing their work, which means stopping to do something so that they can work on this campaign, or really stretching themselves and to be taking on some additional responsibilities. I think having this type of external support, especially at the early stages, to really be establishing that this is a top priority. It's one that we are putting resources behind, and it's one where we are ensuring that the team has the full support to be successful, has been really critical. And also just in some of the more day-to-day conversations, whenever you're strategizing with us about a particular donor prospect, for my frontline fundraiser who's coming to those meetings, they're expected to come with a plan. And a plan for you all to be responding to and to be providing advice on. And just the fact that, we have some of this like baked in structure now has been really, really valuable. And I think it's something that we're going to be able to really take on moving forward, in part because we've learned some of these new muscles in partnership with the Orr Group.
It's fantastic. No, it's been a real privilege and a lot of fun. I guess just in closing, like what advice would you give to other nonprofit leaders? What's sort of on your mind that you think others should be thinking about as they approach their roles?
So yeah, I love this question, and it's one that has kind of prompted some great reflecting on my part. Fundraising is a grind. It's super fun, and it's really there's a lot of joy in it, and also satisfaction. And especially, there's a bit of like a competitive, like positive competitive, dynamic as well that really gets me energized. But it also is a grind, and it's easy for it to feel relentless after a period of time. And so I have found for myself it to just be incredibly pivotal to make sure that I'm finding joy outside of my work and that, I really am creating some solid boundaries with my life. Like I have 3 kids and a very full life outside of work that really provides so much meaning and purpose for me. And I'm so grateful that I also, in my day-to-day job, have a lot of meaning and purpose in it as well. So I think really prioritizing and centering, finding joy in your work and in your personal life is super critical as a leader. I also have been so struck by the importance of embracing flexibility as a manager and a leader. I think in this post-COVID reality, where one of the silver linings in so many ways has been more flexibility from employers in terms of where you live, where, if you're working from home, if you're coming into an office part-time or full-time. I think that flexibility is so critical for staff satisfaction. It's so critical for becoming a more inclusive workplace. I firmly believe that if COVID had not happened, and if I hadn't been able to work from home when I needed to, as at that point I had 3 kids under the age of 5, I would absolutely have been forced out of the workforce. And I would not have this job that I have right now in my late 30s. And so I just feel really strongly about the need for leaders to continue to embrace flexibility wherever possible. And I think that teams really respond well to that and feel motivated when they feel like they have that trust from their management. So I think those are really the top things that come to my mind, when I think about advice.
That's great advice. I think more joy and more flexibility. I think those everybody will do pretty good with that advice. So thank you so much, Mary. I really appreciate you doing this with us today, and just really grateful for the opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.